Gin is back. It's a classic spirit, but there's been this incredible resurgence of interest in it, kind of a gin renaissance, gin-aissance if you want. Here are 10 really cool things that you need to know about it. Originally, gin comes out of the 16th century Dutch Genever, and that was a malt wine base basically with a boatload of juniper berries in it to mask the incredibly harsh flavor. It was actually considered a medicinal liquid. It was sold at pharmacies. So what happened was during the 1600s, English soldiers who were fighting in the 30 Years' War brought this idea of making and drinking Genever back to England with them, and that morphed into the gin we know today. By the mid-1700s, the English were drinking over 2 pints of gin apiece per week for every man, woman, and child in England. There were 8 million gallons of gin made in 1742. 90% of that was made in London. And there was 1 gin shop for every 75 people living in London. It's a lot of gin being drunk. So the crazy thing is, if you were walking down a back street in London, the classic gin shop sign would read, "Drunk for a penny, dead drunk for 2 pence, clean straw for nothing." And the idea was you passed out on the straw. It probably wasn't all that clean, though. So extra strong gins are sometimes referred to as Navy strength. This was actually refers to the Royal Navy days. Officers would test their ship's gin to make sure it had not been diluted. They'd basically pour it onto gunpowder, and if the gunpowder still lit, then the gin was strong enough and they knew it hadn't been messed with. Today that means if you see a Navy strength gin, it's about 114 proof. Regular gins are typically 80, 90 proof. For a spirit to qualify legally as gin in the United States, basically it must be no less than 80 proof, and it has to derive its main flavor from juniper berries. A juniper berry it's got this kind of piney, citrusy, woodsy note. It's very distinctive. If you buy some like in the spice aisle and just crush one, you'll get a sense of it. Gin effectively is made by taking a neutral grain spirit and redistilling it with botanical ingredients. That could be juniper, it has to be juniper, but it can also be things like coriander, angelica, you name it really, the list just goes on and on and on. The Gimlet. Legend has it that the Gimlet was invented by officers in the Royal Navy. Basically, they all received a daily ration of gin to go with their lime juice. The lime juice was the key thing, that it prevents scurvy, and scurvy causes bone pain, lethargy, loose teeth, fever, convulsions, and eventually death. So obviously drink your Gimlets. No bone pain, so good. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the gin Ricky was actually the most popular gin drink around. It's totally simple. It's gin, ice, sparkling water, and you take half a lime, squeeze it, drop it in the drink. Nowadays, the truly classic gin drinks are the Martini, the gin and tonic, the Gimlet, and the new classic addition to that is probably the Negroni. The Negroni was created around 1920 at the Bar Cassoni in Florence when Count Camillo Negroni ordered an Americano, which is sweet vermouth, soda, and Campari, with gin instead of soda. Genius. The man was a genius. And he later became a fencing instructor in New York. En garde! Actually, en garde is French, isn't it? Perhaps he said it in Italian. En garde. I don't know. It's very important to note, a martini is made with gin and vermouth. A martini with no vermouth, you know what that is? That is a glass of cold gin. That's all it is, and it's gross. Also, the actual original name for a vodka martini, the kangaroo. That kind of goes back to the 1950s. So if you're drinking a vodka martini, you're actually drinking a kangaroo. And as far as I'm concerned, that is what you deserve. The country with the world's highest per capita gin consumption, you might think it was England, you might think it was the US, you would be wrong. It is the Philippines. Philippines consumes something around 25 million cases of gin per year. Go figure. I don't know, maybe adobo is amazing with gin. Regardless, they love the stuff. Okay, the final, absolutely crucial last thing you need to know about gin. In May of 2018, Snoop Dogg set a new world's record at the Bottle Rock Music Festival by making the world's largest gin and juice. 180 bottles of Hendrick's gin, 154 bottles of apricot brandy, and 38 jugs of orange juice to create a 132-gallon drink in a 5-foot-tall, 3-foot-wide glass. I love you, Snoop, but I think I'm gonna stick to my martini. That is a damn fine drink.